It's 12 o'clock. You're watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. The top stories. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says bilateral partnerships must be mutually beneficial and transformative. Nigerian Navy concludes arrangements to relocate Naval Training Command headquarters from Lagos to Rivers State. Lagos State government pays a 1.5 billion naira to register 58,000 students for the 2024 West African Senior School Certificate examination. Details coming up shortly. Welcome back. I am Omoefe Peace Osemere. President Bola Tinubu has said that his administration was enhancing the business environment in Nigeria to make it very friendly through various reforms. Tinubu, who said this at the Nigeria-Netherlands Business and Investment Forum in The Hague in Amsterdam, Netherlands, highlighted such reforms to include the cleaning up of the foreign exchange market to make it more transparent for seamless business transactions and removal of fuel subsidy, and the readiness of the Central Bank of Nigeria to provide the necessary window to allow foreign companies repatriate their profits. The president, who said bilateral partnerships must be mutually beneficial, transformative, and translate into real gains for ordinary citizens, added that Nigeria and the Netherlands must explore more creative channels of collaboration through partnerships, joint ventures, and strategic alliances. According to him, this would enable building of bridges to connect markets and facilitate the flow of goods, services, ideas, and people. Tinubu said the improved business environment in Nigeria was making the country an investor's paradise, urging investors to take advantage of these opportunities for mutually rewarding economic partnerships. Now, Minister of Interior Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo has disclosed plans to relocate a lot of correctional centers to create better space, security, and infrastructure. According to a statement issued in Abuja by the Director of Press and Public Relations of the Ministry, Ozoya Imohimi, Tunji-Ojo made the pledge when he visited Suleja Medium Security Custodial Center, where 119 inmates escaped following a heavy downpour which damaged the facility on Wednesday. The minister, who said it was imperative to relocate a lot of the correctional centers to conducive environment, asserted that the facility was built in 1914 to house 250 inmates, but before the incident, there were 499 of them. He said the ministry is already working behind the scenes to fashion out a correctional system that would work for all, assuring that such incident would not happen again in any other facility across the country. In other news, the Nigerian Navy said it has concluded arrangements to relocate the Naval Training Command headquarters from Lagos to Onne in Rivers State. Chief of Naval Staff Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, who disclosed this when he led a delegation of top officers of Navy High Command on a courtesy visit to the Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara at Government House, Port Harcourt, described the Nigerian Navy and Rivers State as co-joined twins who cannot do without each other. Ogala said the Navy had in recent times made commendable strides in its fight against crimes following a charge by President Bola Tinubu. He said the Nigerian Navy under his watch had impounded 14 vessels caught with stolen crude oil, adding that several arrests were made. Now, the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has frowned at the non-completion of negotiations on a new minimum wage, thereby urging the federal government to fast-track action on it. President of the union, Comrade Festus Osifo, made the call while briefing journalists after the National Executive Council of the Labour Movement, where he reportedly ruled out the possibility of having a new minimum wage in place before the end of May. According to media reports, TUC also revealed that some states in the Niger Delta region that collect huge sums of money from the Federation account have not paid neither the wage awards nor palliatives to their workers, further accusing Delta, Imo, Benue, as the worst culprits. It also notes that the federal government has not paid federal workers the wage award for the months of March and April and called for the immediate payment of the wage award to cushion the economic hardship. Right, you're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, Kebbi State Customs Command intercepts 6,250 sacks of dynamite explosives en route to Kebbi along Yauri Jega Road. Details of this and more after this break. Do join us again. Right, welcome back. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Let's head on now to Lagos State, where the Commissioner for the State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, Tolani Ali Balogun, says the state government will be paying 1.5 billion naira to register 58,000 students for the 2024 West African Senior School Certificate examination this year. Ali Balogun disclosed this yesterday while reporting the activities of the ministry in commemoration of the first year of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in office for the second term of his administration. The commissioner said the Babajide Sanwo-Olu-led administration has never defaulted on the payment of WAEC fees of all public school SS3 students in the 4 years of its first term in office. According to media reports, the state government paid over 4.2 billion naira between 2020 and 2023 to keep its promise of full payment of the West African Senior School Certificate examination fees. The Kebbi State Comptroller of Customs, Ernest Ihanacho, says the Joint Border Patrol Team on Intelligence-Based Patrol intercepted 6,250 sacks of dynamite explosives en route to Kebbi along Yauri Jega Road. The explosives, according to him, were loaded in a canter vehicle which was intercepted immediately, leading to the arrest of the driver. Ihanacho said upon discovery of the items, both intelligence units of the Joint Patrol Team conducted an examination and confirmed that the items were explosives, but due to the dangerous nature of the items, the command decided to hand over the explosives to the Department of Security Services, DSS, as the rightful custodians. Receiving the explosives, Deputy Director of DSS, Kebbi Command, Tony Odualu, who represented the State Director of DSS, said that the handing over of the explosives was a demonstration of a healthy interagency collaborations, to which he appealed to customs to sustain the tempo, adding that no agency can do it alone. Malaria, a disease caused by a parasite spread to humans through the bite of infected mosquitoes, reportedly kills more than 400,000 people yearly, mostly children in sub-Saharan Africa. The World Health Organization had last year estimated 600,000 plus malaria deaths around the world, with over 30% of those deaths in Nigeria alone. According to media reports, Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, accounts for a high percent of malaria burden globally. Despite committed elimination efforts, malaria has remained a major public health threat in Nigeria. While Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark World Malaria Day, which is built for April 25th, every year, of course that was yesterday, the question will be how concerted are efforts at all levels to ensure that Nigeria is completely free from malaria. I'm being joined by a program officer, malaria program officer at Breakthrough Action Nigeria, Dr. Lubumi Ojelade. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope I got the designation right.
Yes, correct.
Thank you very much. Well, here we are talking about malaria. I mean, 25th of April every year we do have this conversation, but it looks like nothing, seems to be changing at all.
Thank you very much once more for having me. The truth is that malaria currently is still a disease, a burden in Nigeria,
right?
And it's still a public health concern. But we are winning the war gradually, though we are not there. but we are not where we used to be.
So could you please talk us through the specifics, of where Nigeria is at the moment with regards to the eradication of malaria?
All right, so we can't say malaria is eradicated yet, because if it is
Is that even
eradicated,
possible?
it is possible.
Okay.
Because if it is eradicated, then we won't have malaria again, but we still have malaria. But there have been concerted efforts by the government, which is working towards eradication of malaria, and that is the goal of the Nigerian government, to ensure that malaria is eradicated. Now we need to understand how malaria occurs before we can understand how this can be eradicated.
All right.
Like
Give us an insight here.
Thank you. Like has been rightly mentioned, malaria is caused by only one cause, and that is by the bite of infected Anopheles mosquito. And so if we can find a way of not having this mosquito, then it means that we will not even be talking about malaria.
Okay, we can have other mosquitoes, but not the ones that are affected. Is that it?
Yeah, we have, and we have different species of the mosquito.
Yes.
So it is the female Anopheles mosquito that causes malaria.
Okay, so can we have all the male, mosquitoes and do away with the female mosquitoes?
Yeah, that would be a topic for some other time.
Absolutely.
But yes, if we can find a way to eradicate this, why not? However, eradicating malaria starts right at the household level. From the individual, since we still have the mosquitoes, there are actions that we can put in place to ensure that we don't get infected with malaria, because malaria is actually highly preventable. So, for example, with the understanding and with evidences available, we know that using of the insecticide-treated nets could reduce more than 50% of even having malaria at all, the incidence, if people consistently sleep inside the insecticide-treated nets. And so the government of Nigeria has made this available. This is distributed annually, free of charge to community members. It can last for about 3 to 4 years if properly maintained, and so we have replacements every 3 to 4 years in different states. But even with that, many people are not even sleeping inside it.
I mean, that brings me to the next question. Considering the season we're in, the weather is extremely hot. I don't know about you, but it's almost impossible for one to have like 2-3 hours of, good sleep or sound sleep because of, the heat. So, I mean, how do you even expect someone to sleep under a mosquito net at this time?
All right, thank you very much. So, if we understand what malaria actually is and how much it is of an enemy to us, to take action and some level of inconvenience would become minimal. I mean, it will be more active in taking action. So, for example, if a child comes down with malaria, and I must mention that malaria is a high risk among particular population, pregnant women and children under 5.
Why is that?
Because of their immunity.
Okay.
And so if they get bitten with these infected mosquitoes, they had higher risk of coming down with malaria and even with complications. Malaria has its complication.
Like?
We have malaria, we have like the unsevere malaria, and we have the complicated malaria.
What is the complicated malaria like?
Okay, so complicated malaria is such that can lead to death, just to make it.
But what are the chances
Of having complicated malaria. So having complicated malaria could arise as number one, not even identifying malaria on time, and not getting treated on time.
Okay.
So for example, a child is infected with malaria and then the child is kept at home, and maybe the caregivers are trying other means to take care of the child and not seeking care in the facility. Yes, and then before the child gets to the facility, things had gone, really bad. And then complications sets in. Same thing for the pregnant women. Anyway, so let's come down to why people choose not to sleep inside the
mosquito net.
Treated
mosquito net.
Insecticide treated nets.
Net,
So because, yes, I agree that the temperature is on the high side generally, but then there are ways. For example, you can keep your windows open to allow in air into your house so that you have more air, and then you're prevented from the mosquito
We're
bites.
also concerned about security challenges. Don't
so
forget.
many challenges.
All right.
So many challenges.
The issues are already compounded, I guess.
Yeah, and that is why the control and eradication of malaria is not just a sectorial approach.
Right.
It requires a multi-sectorial approach from the environment, the health sector, even the education sector,
Absolutely.
and even from you.
Okay. Well, we always, do our best, to educate. I mean, that's the reason we're having this conversation.
Obviously.
But again, it shouldn't be only at this time of the year when it's World Malaria Day. I think this campaign should, be like a daily routine for people to really get sense of how deadly malaria is, because some people will tell you that malaria is not really a deadly disease.
Absolutely.
Because it's more like we've not normalized, living with malaria. But then let's talk about the signs and symptoms to look out for.
Okay.
At the COVID-19, during the COVID-19 era, I mean, we were made to understand that malaria and COVID-19, they share similar symptoms. And in this modern day and time that the economy is not even smiling at anyone, should you have a minor headache, are you supposed to raise alarm immediately? Could that be a sign that you're having malaria?
Thank you very much. So, like you rightly said, that malaria and COVID-19, and not only COVID-19, even other diseases might share similar symptoms.
Right.
One of the major symptoms of malaria is fever. Fever is high temperature.
Okay.
And this you can even feel by touching someone. I know it seems your body temperature is high, but fever is not, when you have fever, does not establish the fact that you have malaria.
Okay.
We can also have headache. We have children vomiting,
right,
and different such complaints. The child, if it's a child, for example, the child might not be eating well,
right,
might not be playing, might just be weak, have high temperature, and even when this happens, it is required that whoever is having any of this experience, fever, not eating well, loss of appetite, vomiting, headache, stomach cramps, get tested.
How often should one get tested for malaria?
As often as the symptoms are experienced.
But can we peg like a time frame, maybe every 2 or every 3 months?
Okay, so getting tested shouldn't be a routine unless you have complaints.
Okay.
But once there are complaints, it is important to get tested. But it shouldn't be like a routine, like, okay, let me just keep getting tested. Oh, beautiful, if that is available and just for the good of it. And why not if it's available and for the good of it? But especially when you have complaints, it is important to get tested and to know if that fever or those symptoms are actually caused by malaria.
All right.
The test results will tell us, and there are 2 tests. We have the malaria rapid diagnostic test kits that can be used, and we have the microscopy, the one that they go to test for in the laboratory. Both of them are equally efficient, and they give the correct result.
How affordable is the test kit?
Oh, not quite expensive. In fact, if you get
to some facilities, is it?
Very, very reliable.
Really?
Yes, very, very reliable. But, it's also important to get to the facility.
Right.
Because generally in our society, there is that tendency to abuse many things.
Right.
You might even meet someone at your neighborhood and say, oh, I work in so and so facility and I get you tested. You don't know if the test kit is still if it's still efficient, if there are no issues with it.
Okay.
So getting to the facility, just be ensured that everything there is correct, tested, and you only treat for malaria if the test is positive.
Okay. Well, let me ask, why is it very typical of, lab scientists or those, in the laboratory, those who actually run the malaria test? Most of the time when you go to the lab, you want to run the malaria test, they would tell you that it has to be malaria and typhoid fever test. Why do the 2 come, side by side like that?
Okay, thank you very much. Most of the times we have this happening in private facilities.
Okay.
Most of
Is
the
that
time.
a way of extorting money from people?
Well, I wouldn't want to say that exactly, but even there are, you see, this test for typhoid test is not the most accurate test for typhoid.
Okay.
And when there is typhoid, there are different kind of tests to actually establish that people have typhoid.
Okay.
And this process should be followed duly. But yes, it's a common practice to see that people test for both malaria and typhoid, but we can actually do better on this.
Okay.
And then whatever the result is, which is usually a tighter value, there is still more investigations to be conducted to know if this person exactly have typhoid fever.
Okay.
But to answer, there are times, even when you go to the facilities, that you may be tested for more than malaria.
Right.
Because like I mentioned earlier, fever is not caused by only malaria. And the healthcare provider might want to rule out different things and ensure that you have this comprehensive test once, instead of, okay, let's test for malaria separately, let's take your full blood plan separately. They have the test and know what exactly the issues are, so that such individual can be treated for what the actual issue is.
Okay, so how true is it that there are people who have this, high resistance, in terms of, is malaria contracted? Can it be contracted?
From person to person.
Is it possible?
No,
okay.
It's only the bite of that.
Okay. There are people who actually expose themselves to mosquito bites. Like, they can literally have a sound sleep in, an enclosed space with mosquitoes hovering back and forth, and they tell you that they hardly treat malaria. What could be the reason? So
research had actually shown us that different individuals have different, let me use the word, affinity to these mosquitoes.
All right.
That causes malaria. And there was a research recently that socks were used, socks from different persons, and then this was in a laboratory condition to find out what these mosquitoes are attracted to.
Right.
And it shows that maybe socks from certain persons are more attracted to this mosquito, while it is less attracted to from other persons.
Yeah.
And this is part of the background to having the mosquito repellent cream, which do not allow mosquitoes to bite. However, we have different individuals, and we are biological beings. We are different individuals, and we have to take individuals to laboratory to exactly know who rules out for this.
Right.
But generally in Nigeria, it's still a burden, and most of us are affected, and that's why we have the eye burden.
Okay, so do you have the mosquito repellent cream?
Correct. Yeah, we have mosquito repellent
cream. Do you have
cream.
it?
Personally?
Is it something to bank on?
Yeah.
How effective is it?
It's effective. But for anything to be effective, consistency is required.
All right. So the theme for this year's World Malaria Day is accelerating the fight against malaria for a more equitable world. But what steps should be adopted to accelerate the fight against malaria?
I would like us to appreciate that malaria can be controlled at different levels, starting from the individual level, right to the policymakers level. And to accelerate means there is a fight already, but we need to be more intentional. So let's start at the individual level, household level. One, it is important for individuals to understand and appreciate that malaria is a serious case. And with this understanding at disposition, talking of just of our environments, mosquitoes breed in certain environments.
Right.
So if we keep our environments clean, for example, you reduce the opportunities of mosquitoes to breed in such environments.
Absolutely.
And then you have less of these mosquitoes in the very first place. And then keeping your house netted, for example, netting the windows,
the doors,
your doors are well closed. You might not even know really having this many mosquitoes into your household, and then sleeping inside the insecticide nets. That is at the household level. Therefore, the pregnant women, it is important that pregnant women register for antenatal care in health facilities as soon as they know they are pregnant, because there is an intervention that the government had put in place to ensure that pregnant women do not come down with malaria.
Right.
It is called IPTP, that is intermittent preventive therapy. A particular medicine is given to the pregnant woman during pregnancy to ensure that she does not even have malaria. So if pregnant women are encouraged, but many women don't even register in the health facilities for so many other reasons, and for this reason, malaria, then the complications.
Right.
Children under 5, in some places in Nigeria, there is what we call the seasonal malaria chemo prevention that is given to children, especially in places that have rainfall for about 4 to 5 months, consistent rainfall, because during such seasons, the risk of the children getting malaria is higher. So there is this seasonal chemo prevention that is given, malaria chemo prevention that is given to the children. So at individual level,
children below 5 years?
Yes, children below 5 years. So we ensure that we do this at individual level. Getting to the facility level, for example, it is important that even the healthcare providers test before treatment.
Right.
Because we have seen and we've heard and we've shown, results have shown that there are providers that just treat without treatment.
Blindly, yeah.
Blindly. And then, there is a problem with that because this person might not have malaria. And then this person keeps getting treatment for malaria, and it's not malaria, it's something else.
Right.
And whatever it is causing that fever is not yet treated. Even though the fever may be managed, that is, maybe the person is not currently having fever, and then that happens. So at the healthcare provider level, then at the policy level, our government ensuring that, like I mentioned earlier, that this is not a fight of just a sector, using multi-sectorial approach, seeing how our environments can be cleaner, ensuring how we support our community members to make sure that they do the right thing in preventing malaria.
All right, our time is not our friend, but to wrap up the conversation, bring us up to speed on the malaria vaccine and how accessible. Do we have the vaccines in the country at the moment?
We are still very hopeful that we're going to have the vaccines in the country. However,
what would be the reason for the delay?
So there are processes into this, and the government of Nigeria is making all efforts to ensure that this is available. And vaccines are medications in its rights, and you don't just get to start using stuff anyhow. Right. So, but the government is on top of this, ensuring that this, and I'm very sure this will get to you as soon as it's available.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did say that was going to be the last question, but how effective is agbo? I mean, for people who self-medicate.
All right.
Yeah, they tell you to drink agbo.
You're taking
dogoyaro leaves, boil it together with is it pawpaw leaves, and whatnot. That's like a local concoction.
So, because I'm not a traditional healer or practitioner, but this could be subject to research and evidences could be curated. But whatever would be recommended must be evidence-based.
Right.
As at this morning, anybody that has malaria tested positive, having confirmed the test, is to be treated with ACT. And this ACT, which is adenosine combination therapy, which has been proved to be the most effective for the treatment of uncomplicated malaria, should be treated, and they should complete their treatment.
All right.
Because Nigerians, many times, once they feel okay, they stop taking the medication, which is another problem.
Well, I mean, for someone viewing out there or watching out there, I mean, we think that we just succeeded in demarketing the agbo business or brand. But truth be told, agbo seems to be more affordable for an average man on the street.
ACTs are not expensive. And it's good to go with what has been proven
scientifically proven to be effective.
Right.
Dr. Lubumi Ojelade is malaria program officer at Breakthrough Action Nigeria. Thank you so much for talking to us.
It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you.
All right. Well, that's it for news analysis today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back at the top of the hour with the news update. I am Omoefe Peace Osemere. Good afternoon.